Hey everybody, my name is Christy and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you have visited here before. My channel is all about money and mindset and the intentional focus on those two things to decrease stress and to increase joy and happiness in our lives. And today I'm going to talk about something that I hope is helpful for others, but is quite personal and near and dear to my heart at this particular moment in time. And that is around planning for house expenses, specifically for planning for moving households and what that can mean for your budget. So I like to watch YouTube videos of all sorts of different things, but everything around money and budgeting and cash stuffing and all those types of things. And I saw a YouTuber's video yesterday that really, like I said, kind of hit home for me. And she was cash stuffing envelopes for accounting for different expenses about her new home. So she was building a new house, going to be moving in like in the April-May timeframe. But she has been very intentional about setting aside money for different line items of things that she knew she was going to need when she moved into this house. And it got me thinking about the fact that I've moved a lot. So it's not like I don't have experience with moving households, but I have never been intentional about it. And I think that's part of what has caused me a lot of stress in my life, because you start to realize all of these different things that you need money for when you're moving into a new home, but you haven't necessarily accounted for those things from a intentional budgeting perspective. And that's something, of course, as I've gotten into budgeting over the last, say, 5 or 6 months, every dollar that comes into my bank account has a job. And I put that towards, different categories where I know that I will need money. And I do have a sinking fund envelope that I call house, that I do put money in with every paycheck. But what I have not done in any way, shape, or form in a structured kind of way is look at all of the different things that I'm going to need to do that cost money when I move into my new house. Because very recently, I submitted an offer on a new home, a single family home, and it was accepted, which is exciting. I'm thrilled. However, I'm also terrified because it is a bigger home than what I live in right now. So I do live in a townhouse right now. And so there are things that I know are going to cost me money kind of right away, things that I know I need to plan for the short term and the long term. And I had not really sat down and gone through what each of those things are and how much money I think that I'm going to need to be able to do those things. So in the past, when I've had this type of situation where I've moved homes or moved households and I needed new things, my default was I put it on a credit card. I mean, I think a lot of us do that, right? I mean, that's what credit cards are there for. Like, you need to do something, you may not have the cash on hand, you just stick it on the card with the intention of course, paying it off later. However, as part of my journey here, in my money and mindset journey, I paid off a significant amount of consumer debt last year in October. I basically unshackled myself from all of the credit cards and the lines of credit that I had an obligation to at that point in time. And for me, I never want to be in the situation again where I am beholden to credit cards. I have credit cards, I have a lot of credit available to me. It's just not something I'm interested in. And when I do find myself in a situation, which I have a couple of times in the last couple of months, where for whatever reason, like my debit card didn't work, or the only thing I had in my wallet or kind of at hand that would work was a credit card. I used the credit card and I paid it off immediately the next day, because it's something that has changed in my DNA where I do not want to use credit cards for anything. So if I don't have the cash on hand for it, it's just not something I'm going to do. So knowing that's kind of the way that I think about these things, seeing that YouTuber who was being so intentional about where she was putting her dollars, and realizing that while I had kind of thought about it, that I do have a house sinking fund, but I had no idea about the full scope of everything that I thought that I was going to need to put dollars towards as I move into this new house. I realized I needed a plan. And so I'm going to share with you today my plan. So I have now sat down and I have put a dollar figure against multiple categories of things that I think are going to come up for me in moving into this new house. And I'm going to share that with you here in just a minute. The other thing that I wanted to share is I had a very limiting mindset when it came to what I deserved in terms of my home. And I wanted to share this story with you because I think that there are a lot of people who might run into something similar. So last year, when I went to buy a home, I originally put an offer in on a single family home. And during the inspection, there were some things that came up in terms of grading of the yard, as well as the foundation, that kind of freaked me out. So I knew going into the springtime, because I was looking in the winter, that I was going to have to pay some money that I didn't have right then to be able to shore up these specific things around this house. And I had people telling me different things that also really added to that kind of freak out kind of moment. So I am a single parent. I'm a single mom. So my household is me and my son when my son is with me. And I had people telling me like things around, doing yard work. And, I live in Minnesota. So part of the year we have snow. So, doing snow blowing the driveway and things like that. These are things that admittedly I've never had to do before in my life. But they were kind of like these whispers around like, I couldn't do it, or that would be too much work for me. So I kind of had this knee-jerk reaction and started thinking that that was just something I wasn't supposed to have. I wasn't supposed to have a single family home. Even the whole reason that I was looking for a home instead of renting is I wanted to be able to have a yard. I wanted to be able to have a yard so that my son could go outside and he could play, and he could be right there and I could see him and we could sit out on a deck and really enjoy the short amount of time that Minnesota has for really nice weather. And so I had this, knee-jerk reaction. I heard all these whispers that people were telling me. And so I turned around and I found this townhouse that I live in now. I put in an offer on it. It was accepted. And so I bought a townhouse. And, looking back on that decision, I don't have a yard. Granted, I do live in an end unit townhouse. So there is this side yard here. It's a small side yard. But there is a sidewalk here, going down to some trails and some other community amenities that there are people constantly walking back and forth, or there are people driving on this road right out here. It's a very busy street too, because there are a total of, 16 units here, 8 on the other side of my street here facing me. And then there's 8 units in my building. So it's a very busy corner. There's no privacy. I would not feel comfortable ever letting my son, play out in our small side yard here. So it defeated the purpose of everything that I really, really wanted when I was looking at buying a new home. And so I had a fantastic year at my job last year. Interest rates are super low right now. The housing market is crazy here. So I have confidence that I can actually sell this, even though I just bought it a year ago, and I'll either break even or I might even make a little bit of money. But I decided that I am going to let go of these beliefs and all of these things that other people put on me about my ability to own a single family home. And I was going to go ahead and buy the house that I wanted with the yard that I wanted for my son, which is what I had started this journey to begin with all along anyways. And I have to say, once I decided, as part of my plan that you're going to see here in a moment, once I decided I am fully capable of taking care of a home on my own. Like, I have resources, and where I don't have resources, there are other resources that I could leverage as far as, buying those resources if I needed to. My brother's quite handy. He can help me with different things that might come up in terms of repairs around the house. Like, I can do this. And if I want it and I think I deserve it, and I do, then I was going to go for it. So hopefully that helps you kind of understand how I got here. Now it's a matter of managing the overwhelm by putting forward a plan. So let's talk about my plan. All right, so this is my detailed plan in terms of the estimates that I have for my laundry list of everything I could think of that I could potentially need for my new house. Many of these things, like, let's consider them a wish list, but there are some things that are definitely a must-have. And so I tried to break it out by those categories of the things that would be a must-have, things that would be a nice-to-have in the short term and the long term, and then also things that I know would be a significant spend on my behalf. So that's the way that I kind of broke these things down. And I have to say, guys, I love a good, just like regular old legal pad for doing brainstorming things like this, because I make different kinds of lists, I make notes, and then I can transfer it over to my regular budgeting notebook once I feel like everything is good and comfortable here. So let's start at the top. So again, these are home budget estimates that I have been kind of thinking about. Some of these numbers I know are going to change, but given I have been a homeowner for over 20 years, I do have a pretty good sense of kind of how much a lot of these things are going to cost. I only have one must-have item here at the top, and I consider this must-have like this is day one of moving my home to my new home, and that's of course moving expenses. So I have $1,200 estimated for this. Now that I know seems to be a bit on the high end, right? I have learned over the years that having people move things for me just decreases a lot of stress for me overall. And I have been able to find this to be cheaper, but I also find when I go the cheaper route, I have more problems with things being damaged. So different furniture items that I have being damaged, or even just the experience level of the people who are doing the moving, like they ding walls and things like that. So I want to use the same moving company that moved me to this townhouse. And what I noticed about them, there were 3 gentlemen that came and moved all of my bigger items. They bubble wrapped a bunch of my furniture. They really took their time in making sure that when they were moving things from my old place to this townhouse, to really take really good care of my items. And so I want to use them again, and I know how much it costs to move me here. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of assume that it's going to be about the same amount to move me from this house with all of the things that I currently have to the new house. So I have $1,200 right now slated as a budget for my must-have moving expenses. Now the second line item, I talked a little bit about this already when I was talking about the fact that I had this limiting mindset about my ability to take care of the outdoor portions of my home. When I was getting divorced, I still lived in our home for a period of time after my ex-husband moved out. And it was during the winter because for some reason, I always seemed to be moving in the winter. And when the house was on the market and such, and I was still living there, there were times that we had snowfall here in Minnesota, and I contracted with a company to come and clear my sidewalk and my driveway. and it cost $40 per time that they would come and do that. So it was just like a seasonal contract, and it was a flat rate of $40 per time. And I'm figuring, so there's the snow removal if I want to do that, as opposed to buying a snow blower, as well as doing just general maintenance and cutting of my lawn during the summer. These might be things that I decide I want to do myself. I can buy a lawnmower, I can buy a snow blower, but even at $1,000, that's probably what a year one cost would be, at least for buying those two pieces of equipment. So once I move in and spring comes around, I'm going to check out what a lawn service would cost. And I'm just at this point in time kind of figuring the same amount for doing a weekly coming over and cutting my yard. So and I understand that this is a line item that's more of a luxury item. So I might see, of course, what it would cost for me to do it myself. But right now I'm budgeting $1,000 annually to do the outdoor lawn service and then snow removal during the winter. Now I move into my nice to have categories. So I have broken these down into short term and long term. So short term, because I am moving into a bigger house, there are rooms that currently I don't have furniture for. And that's okay. That is totally fine. It gives me time to really think about the theme that I want to have overall for my decorations and things like that. But it will come pretty quickly where I will need to buy a living room set for my den. Now, this is probably pretty high too, but this would be a sofa, a love seat, a chair, coffee table, end tables, lamps, all of that. So I have that targeted right now at $2,000. I also have a little nook in the kitchen. So I do have a dining room set right now that will go in the dining room, but there's a little nook area in the kitchen where I could have like a little bistro set or just a small table with a couple of chairs. So I want to look at doing a little kitchen dining room set. And I have that targeted at $800. My son right now, he just turned 4. He has a toddler bed right now in our house right now. And I want to look at upgrading him to a twin size bed. So as part of this move, it would be great if I can just have him upgraded for his bed and his mattress, and I'm looking at $500 for that. And then finally, because I'm going to have a 3-car garage, I will have room for an actual deep freezer. And not just a small one, but I can get, a nice size deep freezer because I'm doing a lot more meal planning. I'm doing a lot more freezing of meals. So having a garage freezer, and although I have $500 listed here, all of these things, I am part of different Facebook marketplace groups locally, as well as, Facebook marketplace and overall. And I found a lot of really great deals on Facebook marketplace. So that's really the first place that I'm going to start. But this would be what I'm thinking about if I had to buy these things brand new. Now moving into my long-term things. New pots and pans. I'm cooking a lot more than I ever have in my life. And what I have noticed by doing that is that the pots and pans that I have, while they work right now, they're not the greatest quality. So I would like to look at upgrading some of my pots and pans eventually. And so I'm putting that into the budget as well. Now in my kitchen, there isn't a kitchen island, and it's kind of a longer rectangular type of kitchen setup. And so there wouldn't make sense to have a traditional kitchen island, but I would like to have something there as an additional workspace. And I know I've seen different things, in different places, kind of a long, skinny kind of kitchen island for storage and just to have that extra workspace. So I'm going to investigate that a little bit further, but I'm thinking $300 for that. Because I'm going to have a deck now in my new house, I'm looking at a patio set. Although my mom is trying to sell me her current patio set, so I could get this probably a lot cheaper if I like what she has, but I'm targeting $800 for that. I work remotely right now for my job, and I use an extra computer that I have, or my iPad, when I'm doing kind of very monotonous types of tasks, I like to just play like Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that, just on a little extra screen, just to have noise there as I'm working and doing these very monotonous tasks. But eventually I would like to have a TV in my office. So I have $500 slated for that. I'm going to have a whole room. It's the smallest of the 4 bedrooms upstairs that I'm going to devote to my Poshmark business and my eBay reselling business. And I would like to have like an actual work table as opposed to using a card table. So, this is something I'm sure I can find something on Facebook Marketplace that would work great for this. So that's why I only have $50 on that. I do have a basement, and the office or the furniture that's currently in my loft right now, I'm going to put in my basement. And so I have a TV already ready to go down there, but what I don't have is a stand. So I could mount the TV potentially, but if I want to look at putting it on a TV stand, I have some money allocated for that. Right now I have nothing in my office in terms of a bookcase. I have my desk, and then I have a little stand that my printer sets on that has a little roll-away file cabinet. I would really like to have an actual bookcase in my office. So I slated $100 for that. And then finally, decorations overall. Now this may seem a little low at $300, but I'll just say, again, I see a lot of things on Facebook Marketplace that I like, that I think would be great. I also have kept a bunch of stuff from when I lived in the house that I lived in with my ex-husband. So I have a ton of like paintings and pictures and things like that I haven't been able to use in this space that I've had, or my rental space that I had before this. But I have a ton of stuff in my garage already that I think will be really, great things to put up in the new place. So I don't have as much here in terms of this line item for decorations. And I'm sure that'll go up a little bit as I get settled in, but right now I'm putting $300 on that. My big spend item here, you can see at the bottom, would be a fence. So I talked about the fact that I really am excited about the lot of my new place. It's huge, and it has trees in the backyard that line it. It backs up to a trail in my city, so we can just pop down onto the walking trail and then go all around the wetlands that's in the back. But it would be nice to have that area fenced in eventually. Fences are expensive, and so I have put $15,000 as a benchmark on that particular line item, and that's something absolutely that will likely be a long-term thing, because I don't think I'm going to be able to do that this year. But I want to start saving for it, so I put it here nonetheless. So you can see across all of these things, it's about $22,000, $23,000 total, with a big chunk of it coming from the fence, obviously. Now, what I know is I have an emergency fund. It's 3 to 6 months of my living expenses that if I wanted to, I could take care of all of these things with that money that I already have set aside in my emergency fund, my fully funded emergency fund. But I really don't want to do that, because obviously I'm putting that money aside for a reason, and that's for in case something catastrophic happens with me or with my job, so I don't have to worry about being able to pay for expenses. So there are 2 things that I'm thinking about in terms of strategy. One is continuing to focus on my reselling business, and so being able to increase the amount of money that I'm making there every month. I haven't really been focused on it for quite a while. I am making, a couple $100s a month, so between $300 to $400 a month on my side hustle. And I know when I am really hitting it hard, I can make anywhere from $1,000 to $1,200, maybe more, depending on what I'm sourcing. So that's one strategy, is I want to increase the attention that I'm spending on my reselling business to take care of some of these items. The second thing I know is that I have commission payments coming in from my full-time job. And so I'm in sales, and I get paid quarterly for the sales that happened the quarter before. So there are definitely some deals that I've had in the pipeline here in Q1 that can help when I get a commission payment for Q1 at the end of April, that can help take care of some of these items as well. So those are the two different strategies that I'm looking at helping to pay for some of these items outside of the money that I have set aside for my 3 to 6 month emergency fund. So I would love to hear for anybody who's, moved recently, am I missing something? Like, is there something that I should be thinking about that I missed that you would recommend I account for as part of my budget? And of course, if you like this video, and please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see all of the videos that I post on YouTube, please be sure to click the subscribe button as well. And I will see you all again next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.